The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we are going to be speaking with Amy Revis, who is a staff attorney at Montana Legal Services, and she is working on a really cool project. It helps people expunge their minor convictions off their record, and that helps them access public benefits, public housing, and all sorts of other services they may be being denied access to. Make sure that you stay tuned so that you can learn how you or a family member can participate in this amazing program.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Hey, caregivers, did you know that respite time is your time? How will you spend it?
20-year-old twins with special needs takes a lot of wrangling. So sometimes a trip to the grocery store without having to worry about the boys can feel like a mini vacation.
Tori Allard, Billings.
We also own a DJ company, and there's always something going on there that needs attention.
Montana Lifespan Respite. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
The small things in life can make a huge difference. Thank you, Respite Care.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell. Today we are speaking with Amy Revis. She is a staff attorney at Montana Legal Services, and she has an amazing program that I want to tell you all about. Amy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning, Katie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Amy, you are a Montana gal, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was born in Butte and grew up there and then in Cardwell and graduated from Whitehall High School.
Wow, that's amazing. And now you are a staff attorney and a Skadden Fellow at Montana Legal Services, correct?
I am, yes. I started there in 2022 and super thrilled to be back in my home state.
Wonderful. And what kind of work do you do at Montana Legal Services?
So I am on this 2-year fellowship project, and really the main focus of my project is working with folks with past criminal records. And, actually 1 in 3 Americans have some kind of crime on their record. Sure. And so a big part of my project is working on what's called expungement, which is getting people's old criminal convictions sealed or cleared from their record. So that's my big project, is trying to figure out how to get that out to more people who can't necessarily afford an attorney to get their record expunged, but could still use some assistance in figuring out how to go about it.
Wonderful. And tell me a little bit about Montana Legal Services. What do they do?
Sure. We're a statewide nonprofit, and we provide free civil legal aid to low-income Montanans all across the state. Our 3 main offices are here in Helena, in Missoula, and in Billings. And civil legal aid can really cover a whole host of issues, right? Everything from family law problems, maybe somebody who's facing eviction, somebody with a consumer or debt issue. And so these are a whole range of issues that we help people with, either get them advice, get them the right forms to fill out, get them some representation in court.
Amazing. How did you get into this work? What led a little girl from Whitehall to go into this type of work?
Well, yeah, I went to school out of state, and after college, I worked in social services for a number of years. Worked in an emergency shelter and just encountered lots of folks there who had past criminal records, and I thought, this is just holding them back in so many ways, even though it could have been something that happened a long time ago in their past. I decided to go to law school and got more interested in kind of public interest work there. And then when I had the opportunity to do this fellowship project, I knew I wanted to do it home in Montana.
That's wonderful. The word expungement, I think, is a big word that not all of us have ever heard before. So tell me, what does that word mean?
Expungement really means to delete or clear a conviction, a criminal conviction, from somebody's criminal record. Okay. And so you probably a lot of times people would know that when they've had a background check done, sure, when they apply for a job or apply for housing. And expungement means that when they pull that background check, if you've had that conviction expunged, it won't show up anymore on your background check.
Wonderful. And why would someone want to take this step?
I think for different people, there's a lot of different reasons. I think the most tangible and obvious reasons are going to be that you get so much of a benefit to not having these convictions when you go to apply for housing and for jobs. And so, for example, if an employer or a landlord is faced with two applications that are exactly the same, sure, but one person has a 10-year-old theft charge, they're pretty much always going to give the job or the apartment to the person without the conviction. Yeah. And so I think it has some real tangible benefits to getting your record expunged in terms of housing and employment. But there may be other sorts of benefits as well. A lot of educational programs and licensure programs run background checks, so if people are looking to advance their education or their career, it can also benefit them in those ways.
Sure, and I assume there's probably sometimes personal reasons too. Maybe just someone, has made some different choices in their life and is now ready to move past that period in their life.
I think that's absolutely true of a lot of the people I work with as well. Depending on what was going on in their lives at the time this conviction happened, a lot of the people I work with, they say, I made a mistake, or it was a really hard time in my life. That was the worst time in my life, but I've really moved past that. Sure. And I think that seeking to have your record cleared or expunged is also a big part of sort of asserting yourself and saying, no, I am a part of my community again, and I've made peace with that time in my life. I'm in a better place now, and I want my record to reflect that.
And expungement happens after someone has already completed all of the requirements ordered by the court, correct?
That's right. Expungement's a pretty new opportunity in Montana. The legislature first passed it in 2017 and revised the laws in 2019. So it's a pretty new opportunity, and I think they did recognize that there was a certain unfairness in that people who have fully completed all their sentence, right? If they had to serve a day in jail, they did that. If they had to do community service or take a class, it's all been completed. They've paid off any fines they're required to pay off, but the consequences are lingering. And so, yes, expungement happens after your sentence is fully completed. And actually, if it's been 5 years since your conviction, there's a presumption that it will be expunged from your record.
Wonderful. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the process of expungement, how it actually works. So make sure you stay tuned, because we've got all of that information for you coming up.
Medicare loses $60 million in Montana each year, $70 billion nationally. Medicare processes 4.5 million claims a day. They don't know who your doctor is, but you do. Mistakes can happen.
Read your Medicare statements and call Montana Senior Medicare Patrol if you see anything unexpected.
1-800-551-3191. This project is supported by a grant by the Administration for Community Living.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Today, class, we'll be discussing the term ombudsman, a word we borrowed from the Swedes and never gave back. Say you're a resident or you have a loved one in long-term care. Now, what do you do if you're not happy with the care and services you receive? You call your long-term care ombudsman, of course. Your ombudsman is available to support you and your rights. An advocate on your behalf could be the ticket. This is your home. If you have questions, the numbers right there below me have all the answers. Class dismissed.
A decade of Montana fourth graders on Energy Share. Robbie Holman reminds us that even during the chilliest Montana winters, our homes don't have to be cold, not if we Energy Share the love. And Emma Bergman knows who to call when the cost of heating your home starts to put a chill on your family. Emma says, when winter is in the air, it's time to care with Energy Share. Energy Share is not a government program. It's neighbors helping neighbors who face energy emergencies the Montana way. Call or visit our website today. Thanks, Energy Share, for helping people in need.
Hey, caregivers, did you know that respite time is your time? How will you spend it?
When the weather's good, I got to get away for some fishing, and that's a must.
Fred Dahlbeck. Clancy.
My grandson tells me we suck at golf. Fun, though. And there's never enough time to keep the old 57 Chevy happy.
Montana Lifespan Respite. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
Come on, girl.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. We are speaking with Amy Revis, who is a staff attorney with Montana Legal Services today, and she is talking all about the expungement project that Montana Legal Services is doing. So, Amy, we talked a little bit about what expungement is, but how does it work? Tell me a little bit about the actual process.
Sure. So the first step to get your record expunged is that you have to file what's called a petition with the court, and it has to be filed in the court who gave your conviction, in the district court where you got your conviction. And you file the petition, and it's a request to the court to clear your record, and then after that the judge will make his or her decision about whether or not to clear your record.
And what does a petition look like? Is that something that you have to have an attorney draw up? Is it something that's really complicated to fill out? Tell me a little bit about that.
So we've actually been developing a petition for people who are self-represented to be able to fill out on their own. It's a pretty simple packet. It's about maybe 5 or 6 pages long, and really you just read through it and mark the answers that apply to you. And it's got instructions with it, about 7 pages of instructions, everything you need to know about how to fill out the form, where to file it, how to request a filing fee waiver, and then what to expect after you file.
Wonderful. And how did you develop the packet? Who was involved in that process?
So the packet's been developed sort of out of a core group of folks. First of all, I started out by just taking on a few people to represent myself and kind of see how these cases played out in court and make sure that the petition was going to be something that was effective.
Sure.
And then we got some buy-in from folks at the Office of Public Defender, folks at the Law Library, and help from the Montana Supreme Court's Access to Justice Commission, who does a lot of work for self-represented litigants and creating forms that are easy to use, understandable.
Yeah. And is this something that's happening in other states, or is Montana sort of leading the pack on something like this?
You know, each state kind of has its own expungement process that's unique to it. I'm really glad that we now have misdemeanor expungement. There is no expungement pathway for felonies in Montana under the law as it is now. So in some states that's an option. In Montana it's not. But I think that, this kind of move in 2019 and 2017 to create a path for misdemeanor expungement is really exciting. And I think Montana, in some ways, is kind of catching up to expungement work that's being done in other states.
When we talk about that difference between a misdemeanor and a felony, can you explain to me what sort of misdemeanors we're looking at through expungement?
Sure. A misdemeanor is a conviction that you got sentenced to less than a year in jail or maybe no jail time at all, and you paid less than $1,500 for. And so it's going to be things like petty theft, it could be a possession charge, it could be maybe someone's first driving under the influence. So those are the kinds of things that fall into a misdemeanor conviction category. It's really a whole host of convictions. Could be writing a bad check, trespassing, those sorts of things. Felonies are typically seen as more serious convictions, and so those, maybe somebody had to spend time in Deer Lodge or the women's prison in Billings. Those are the kinds of things that are felonies.
So for the most part, misdemeanors are typically not violent, not threats to the general community is what we're looking at.
They're certainly considered to be a less serious conviction. There are certain misdemeanors that courts will take a harder look at before expunging, and so that does include things like assault or driving under the influence, where there really could have been a threat to the people around them, but still a recognition that people can change from that time and request to have their record cleared.
Are there any misdemeanors that are sort of exempt from this process that you cannot do an expungement with?
Nope, no misdemeanors are exempt. There's just that certain list that gets a harder look.
Absolutely. And so when someone is looking at thinking about whether or not they want to do expungement, what are some of the things that someone needs to think about before they start the process?
One thing they want to think about is whether they've completed all their sentencing terms. So they should think back and remember, if I had a fine to pay off, did I fully pay it off to the court? And they can go ahead and just check with the court clerk and make sure that that's fully paid off. The other thing that they want to find out is, what is everything that's on my record? Because when you petition for expungement, you can only do it one time in your life. And so you want to make sure that you know everything that's on your record to get it fully cleared off all at once. And then the last thing I would say is that the courts are going to want to know about who you are today. And so I think it's really good for people to kind of reflect on, maybe, for example, if they had a drug possession charge from their past and they have a certain amount of sobriety now, right? What do they want to demonstrate to the court, and how can they include that in their petition to say, look, this was a bad time in my life, but this is where I am today, and this is why I deserve to have my record cleared.
It's really almost a celebration of the fact that people have done better in their lives. They've made a mistake, they've corrected that mistake, and are doing better.
That's so true. And if the court ever calls a hearing where they want you to come in and tell the court more, people can bring in supportive people in their life. So they can bring in their sponsor, or a member of their faith community, or a family member or a friend or an employer who says, I can vouch for this person, and they've really made a turn from this time in their life, and speak in support of their expungement.
That's really wonderful. What really cool work. When we get back, Amy, I want to talk a little bit about the clinic opportunity that you guys have coming up. So make sure you stay tuned. There are some really amazing opportunities coming up in communities near you where you can actually participate in an expungement clinic and have your record cleared, or encourage a family member to do so. So make sure you stay tuned, because we've got all of that information coming up next.
With as many as 1 in 10 Americans at risk for Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia, chances are someone you know and love will receive that diagnosis. When that happens, you may well feel devastated, but know that you are not alone. Help is available. You don't have to face dementia by yourself. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
It's been 27 years. I never thought I'd still be smoking, but here I am. COPD and all. I'm about to have a granddaughter. There's so much to show her, but I'm scared I won't be able to keep up like I used to. Kind of gave up on myself on quitting. But it's different now. I want to be here for her and for my daughter.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
Sergeant Jones. Please respond. I was separated from my squad. Requesting backup. Anyone? Please respond. I'm all alone here.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we are talking all about the really important topic of expungement of misdemeanor convictions. And we're speaking with Amy Revis, who is a staff attorney with Montana Legal Services. So Amy, Montana Legal Services not only developed this really great petition and the work that you're doing, but you guys are also holding clinics. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
So at the end of March, we're going to be hosting for the first time what we're billing as Clean Slate Clinics, which is going to be an opportunity for people to meet with either a volunteer attorney or a volunteer law student who will sit down with them in a one-on-one appointment and help them complete an expungement petition for them to file with the court.
That is amazing. And so what how do folks apply for these clinics?
So we'll put the phone number up and our link for the online application up. People do need to pre-register, and so they can do that by contacting us at Montana Legal Services, either by phone, stopping in one of our offices, or filling out the online application. After you fill that out, we'll make sure that what's on your record is something that we can help with, and we'll talk to you on the phone and get you slotted for one of our appointments that'll be sometime between March 24th and March 28th.
And where in Montana are you going to do the clinics?
So we have 3 locations. We're going to be here in Helena, we're going to be in Bozeman at the Law and Justice Center, and we'll be in Billings.
Wonderful. And for a clinic slot, how long should people expect to be at the clinic?
We're asking people to leave an hour to an hour and a half, just depending on how long things can take. But hopefully it should be a pretty painless process. So about that amount of time. And then you'll have to go, of course, to the right courthouse and file your paperwork.
And what will folks need to collect ahead of time before they come to the clinic?
We'll help them with some of this after they apply, but what we'll need is a background check, and we are covering the cost of those for people participating in the clinic, so we can run those for you and get those. Other than that, you don't need a whole awful lot. You just need to show up, kind of know your own story, and be ready to share it.
That's really wonderful. And then what sort of fees will people pay to participate in the program?
The clinic is completely free of cost, and so they won't need to pay anything. And if they can't afford the filing fee with the court, we have the paperwork for them to fill out to request a filing fee waiver.
And if someone has misdemeanor convictions from more than one court, how do you decide where they need to file?
So you can file in any judicial district where at least one of the convictions were. And so, for example, if you have one conviction from Missoula and one conviction from Billings, you could file in either Missoula or Billings to expunge your entire record.
And when we think about this work, is there sort of an average consumer? Who do you see participating in the program? Is it only young people? Tell me a little bit about the people that you're helping.
So most often the people that we're helping have had some kind of negative consequence already because of their criminal record. They've been denied a promotion, they've been denied an apartment based on their criminal record, and they realize, gosh, is there some way that I could get this to change because it is holding me back? And so a lot of times that could be people maybe earlier on in their career. But actually, this can really benefit seniors as well. For example, when you apply to a lot of assisted living facilities or senior living facilities, they run background checks. And so if you're worried about an application you have to submit in the future, how is it going to look when this sometimes decades old conviction pops up? If you want to just be sure to get that cleared up, you can go ahead and apply to our clinic and we can help you with that.
That's really wonderful. And is there an effect for law enforcement for this? I know some people might be concerned about the impacts on the community for this, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when a record is expunged, it's actually getting deleted from the Department of Justice's criminal records database, and they're the warehouse for all of that information. But the law enforcement agencies who originally maybe charged the crime and the prosecution offices who pursued it in court, they still have that information. They're just required to keep it under seal. And so they do still know about that information, both law enforcement and prosecutors' offices. And so hopefully that can assuage some people's concerns.
Sure.
I think the other thing is that judges, when deciding whether or not to grant expungement, that is one of the factors they have to consider, is if this has any impact on public safety or not.
Wonderful. And like you said, these are people that have completed their sentences, and there's that time period, right?
That's right.
And that is 5 years, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So that's really amazing. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us all about this. I think it's such a wonderful work that you do. Is there anything else that folks can maybe share with a loved one or a family member who might be interested in the program?
I think just letting them know about that Clean Slate Clinic, March 24th through 28th, is a really good place for them to start. They can sign up, get any questions answered that they have. But if it's past the clinic time or later on, we also have free information on montanalawhelp.org, where they can read more themselves, look at the petition, and decide what they want to do.
Wonderful. So if they miss those March deadlines, or maybe they haven't passed that 5-year period, there will still be an opportunity to continue this.
That's right.
That's wonderful. Amy, thank you so much. It's so exciting to hear of Montana Legal Services doing this wonderful work, and really so helpful to some of our seniors and a lot of our family members that are going through something like this. So if this situation applies to you, you can go to the website that we're going to put on the screen, and you can apply for those clinics. You can give them a call, and you can schedule an appointment. You do have to have an appointment to attend one of the clinics, so make sure you do that ahead of time. And there's help with covering the costs of the fees for the fee waiver. They'll help you fill out that paperwork if filing that paperwork with the court is going to be an obstacle for you. And that background check fee is also going to be covered by the clinic. So make sure that you apply to Montana Legal Services. And if you have any questions about the program, you can always give them a call. Thank you so much for joining us on Aging Horizons. We really appreciate it. I'm your host, Katie Lovell. Until next time.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.